The cooling system had been making that rattling sound for 3 days. Finn Mercier kept meaning to log a maintenance request, kept forgetting because the coffee maker was also broken. And without caffeine, his brain functioned at approximately 30% capacity. So, really, what happened next was the coffee maker's fault. He was alone on the night shift, his favorite time, if he was honest. Station Point orbited a dying red giant, enduring station night. The viewports dimmed to spare everyone the existential dread of watching a star slowly consume itself. The communications bay became his personal sanctuary. Just him. It's the soft amber glow of 100 dormant monitors, and the peaceful static of empty space. Finn had his feet propped on the secondary console, sketching constellations in his worn notebook, when the rattling stopped. Just stopped. Which should have been his first warning, because machines didn't fix themselves. They just found new and creative ways to malfunction. The temperature spiked first. His tablet beeped a warning: cooling system failure, Sector 7. Sector 7, which happened to house the primary transmission array. The very expensive, very delicate transmission array that was absolutely not supposed to overheat. No. Finn lunged for the emergency shutdown, but the panel was already flashing red. Temperature climbing. He could smell something burning, that distinct ozone scent of electronics deciding to become very brief fireworks. He grabbed the manual override, yanked it hard. The panel sparked. Something inside the console made a sound. Like a dying cat, if that cat was made of circuits and bad decisions. And then, with perfect comic timing, the array dumped 3 months of stored calibration data directly into the transmission buffer and broadcast it at maximum power across every frequency simultaneously, into the Crimson Veil, into forbidden space, into territory that hadn't responded to hails in 200 years because the things that lived there didn't want to be found. The emergency klaxon started screaming about 90 seconds after. Finn's soul left his body. Station manager Garrett burst through the door, still in his sleep clothes, hair standing at angles that defied physics. "What did you do?" "I didn't the cooling system it." Finn gestured helplessly at the smoking console. "Is that smoke?" "Why is there smoke?" Garrett's face was doing something complicated, cycling through emotions too quickly to name. "Please tell me you didn't just broadcast into the veil." Finn said nothing. "The error log said everything." "Oh, you absolute..." Garrett pressed both hands against his face. "Do you have any idea what lives out there?" "The Ashenfell Court," Finn whispered. "The vampire lords, but they never respond to anything. The astronomers think they might have gone extinct or transcended." Or the main screen flickered. Once, twice, new message received. They both stared. "That's not possible," Garrett said slowly. "That's not opponent." Finn's hands shook as he pulled up the transmission. It was text-tonally rendered in symbols that took the computer 3 full seconds to translate. The language was so old that only 2 universities in human space still taught it. "Your signal was received. Your coordinates are noted. We are curious about this accident. Arrival in 17 hours. Prepared diplomatic courtesies. The Ashenfell Court, 17 hours. Garrett repeated. His voice had gone very quiet. "Finn, the nearest military vessel is 6 weeks away. Maybe they're friendly, they're vampires," Finn corrected, because precision mattered, even during apocalyptic scenarios. "And technically, we don't know much about them. It's just rumors. Stories most scholars think. I don't care what scholars think." Garrett was pacing now, moving in tight circles. "I care that you just invited the most reclusive, potentially hostile species in known space to our tiny, defenseless research station by breaking equipment. The cooling system broke the equipment. I was just there." Garrett shot him a look that could have curdled milk. "Clean this up. Make it look intentional. Find something in the archives about proper diplomatic greeting protocols. And for the love of everything, figure out what vampires eat so we can stock it." "I don't think they eat," Finn said weakly. "I think they drink. Then find out what they drink, and pray to God we have it." 16 hours and 43 minutes later, Finn had accomplished the following. He'd showered, found his leash wrinkled. Uniform read everything in the database about the Ashenfell Court, which wasn't much. And stress organized the communications bay 3 times. He'd also discovered that, yes, vampires required blood, specifically the iron-rich plasma from living sources, and no, the station did not stock that in the cafeteria. He was contemplating the ethics of offering his own blood as an apology gift when the proximity alarms began singing. The view screen showed it first. Space didn't bend so much as unfold, like someone was turning reality inside out very carefully. And then the ship emerged. Finn had seen thousands of vessels during his 5 years on Obsidian Point. Cargo haulers, science ships, military destroyers, even the occasional luxury yacht. This was none of those things. This was art pretending to be transportation. The hull was black, but not the flat black of paint. This was the black of deep water, of midnight without stars. It curved in impossible ways, organic and sleek, covered in patterns that glowed faint crimson. Like veins, like the ship was alive and had its own blood moving through it. "Oh," Finn breathed. "Oh, that's beautiful. It's terrifying," Garrett corrected, appearing beside him. The station manager had found his formal uniform, though he buttoned it wrong. "They're requesting docking clearance." "Granted." "Obviously granted. We invited them. You invited them. The cooling system invited them. I was merely the instrument of fate." The docking process took 40 minutes. The vampire ship moved with deliberate grace, matching their rotation perfectly, extending a connection tunnel that looked more like a living tentacle than any airlock Finn had ever seen. Garrett assembled everyone at the docking port, all 12 station personnel standing in 2 neat rows like the world's saddest honor guard. Finn stood in front because apparently this was his mess to manage. The airlock cycled. Pressure equalized with a hiss that sounded like breathing. The door opened. She came through like smoke taking shape. Tall as Lee, 6.5 feet, maybe more. Wrapped in dark fabric that moved wrong, that seemed to have too many dimensions. Her hood was raised, but Finn could see the edge of her. Face, skin like porcelain, sharp cheekbones, and those lines. Those glowing crimson lines that traced across her visible skin like luminescent tattoos, pulsing gently with rhythm that might have been a heartbeat. Behind her, 3 attendants, equally tall, equally elegant, equally terrifying. She stopped 3 feet from Finn, studied him with a gaze he couldn't see, but definitely felt. When she spoke, her voice had harmonic layers of sound that shouldn't have come from one throat. "I am Seraphine of the Ashenfell Court, Empress of the Crimson Veil, Keeper of the Long Night." A pause. "You were the one who sent the signal?" Finn's mouth was very dry. "Yes, Finn Mercier. I'm very sorry. It was an accident. Equipment failure. I take full responsibility." Silence. Long enough that Finn wondered if vampires could kill people with awkwardness alone. Then, impossibly, she laughed. Not cruel. Not mocking. Surprised. Delighted, almost. "You summoned an empire by mistake," Seraphine said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. How refreshingly honest. She pushed back her hood. Finn forgot how to breathe. She was beautiful in a way that made his brain stutter all sharp. Elegance and those glowing lines that traced across her temples, down her neck, disappearing beneath her collar. Eyes were crimson, true crimson, like light through dark wine. "Show me," she said, "what accident brings empires together." And Finn, who had absolutely no idea what he was doing, smiled back. The conference room hadn't been designed for entertaining immortal empresses. It had been designed for budget meetings and depressing performance reviews, which explained the flickering overhead lights, the table with one leg shorter than the others, and the faint smell of recycled air that had been recycled approximately 17,000 times too many. Seraphine stood at the viewport, ignoring the chair Finn had offered. Her 3 attendants had positioned themselves at various points around the room's perimeter, silent as shadows. Finn was trying very hard not to think about how he was alone with 4 apex predators who could probably kill him in ways he hadn't even imagined yet. "Your station is quite small," Seraphine observed, still facing the dying red giant outside. The crimson light played across her features, making the glowing lines on her skin pulse brighter. "And quite remote. We're a research outpost," Finn explained, pulling up his datapad. 12 personnel. We study stellar decay patterns, deep space radiation, that sort of thing. Nothing exciting. Very boring, actually. Aggressively boring. Yet you broadcast into the veil. That was the exciting part. The unwanted, unplanned, exciting part. She turned, and the movement was fluid in a way that human bodies just weren't. Like watching water flow uphill. Your station manager seems quite distressed by our arrival. Garrett's distressed by everything. Last week he had a meltdown because someone reorganized the supply closet. Finn hesitated. Though in his defense, you are fairly distressing. No offense. None taken. We cultivate distressing. Her head tilted slightly. You, however, seem less afraid than expected. I'm terrified, Finn admitted. But I'm also curious. You're the first Ashenfell court member anyone seen in 2 centuries. That's incredible. Do you know how many theories exist about your species? There's this whole academic debate about whether you're even biological, or if you're some kind of energy-based. He stopped. Sorry, I'm rambling, you're enthusiastic. Something that might have been amusement colored her voice. It's unusual. Most species we encounter either worship us or want us destroyed. I'm firmly in the wants to ask you approximately 900 questions category. Seraphine moved closer one moment across the room, the next standing beside his chair. Finn definitely didn't see the transition, and his heart definitely didn't skip several beats in panic. You may ask 3 questions, she said. Choose wisely. Finn's mind raced. 3 questions. Only 3. He could ask about their technology, their empire, their history. Why did you respond to my signal? The words tumbled out. You've ignored every attempt at contact for 200 years. What made my broken equipment different? Seraphine's crimson eyes studied him. Up close, he could see they weren't uniformly red. There were darker patterns within them. Like looking into deep wine with shadows moving beneath the surface. Your signal was chaotic, she said finally. Unplanned. Real. Every other contact we've received has been carefully calculated. It's politically motivated, designed to extract something from us. Yours was simply honest. A mistake made by someone trying to fix a cooling system. Her lips curved slightly. We found it refreshing. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about my incompetence. Second question. Finn gestured at the glowing lines on her skin. Those markings, are they biological? Cultural? Do they serve a function, or are they aesthetic? Her expression shifted surprise. Maybe. You don't ask about the blood drinking. Everyone asks about the blood drinking. It's boring. Obviously, you need iron-rich compounds to survive. It's probably related to oxygen transport in your cellular structure, which suggests your homeworld had lower oxygen density than Earth standard. But those patterns? He leaned closer without thinking. They pulse with rhythm. Like a heartbeat, but faster. And they glow brighter when you move quickly. So they're either connected to your circulatory system or your nervous system. Possibly both. And I've been trying to figure out which for the last hour. Seraphine was staring at him. One of her attendants made a small sound. Apologies, the attendant said. Voice layered with the same harmonics as Seraphine's. I have not heard our physiology analyzed so accurately by an outsider in 3 centuries. Cassian is impressed, Seraphine said, glancing at the attendant. That's rare. To answer your question, Finn Mercier, the markings are called bloodlight. They map our vascular system and neural pathways simultaneously. They glow with our life force. When we feed, they brighten. When we're weak, they dim. They also shift with emotion, though we're trained from youth to control that. What emotion makes them pulse faster? That would be a 4th question. But she was smiling now, small and genuine. What is your 3rd? Finn hesitated. He had so many questions, but only one felt important in this moment. Are you lonely? The silence stretched. Seraphine's expression went carefully blank. I'm sorry, Finn said quickly. That was too personal. You said you found my signal honest, and I thought maybe honesty deserved honesty. But I overstepped. Yes, Seraphina said quietly. I am lonely. Immortality is beautiful until you realize everyone you care about is temporary. We stop making contact with other species because attachment hurts. It's easier to remain alone. That sounds terrible. It is. She moved back to the viewport. You should fear me more, Fin Mercia. I've lived for 700 years. I've watched civilizations rise and fall. I've seen stars born and die. You're barely a flicker in time to me. Is that supposed to make me fear you? It should make you understand how different we are. Different doesn't mean incompatible. Finn pulled up a file on his datapad. Can I show you something? It's related to my research. I promise it's relevant. Seraphine turned, curiosity evident in the tilt of her head. Show me. He brought up a waveform analysis complex, mathematical patterns rendered in cascading colors. This is a signal from a dead civilization. They went silent 400 years ago, right at the edge of the veil. I've been trying to decode it for 18 months. It's definitely language, but I can't crack the syntax. Shh. She leaned over his shoulder, close enough that he caught her sense something like night-blooming flowers in ozone. Her bloodlight patterns pulsed faster, brighter. This is Velatine's script, she said after a moment. Very old. Pre-diaspora. You can read it? I knew them. Before they faded? Her finger traced the patterns on the screen without touching it. This isn't a distress signal, Finn. It's a love poem. His heart skipped. A love poem. They were dying. Their star was collapsing. They had perhaps 3 days left. Seraphine's voice softened. This message wasn't meant for rescue. It was meant for each other. It translates approximately to, in the end, as our light fails, I am grateful for every moment I burned beside you. Brief as we are, we burned brightly together. Finn stared at the data he'd been analyzing for a year and a half. A love poem. A goodbye between people who knew they were temporary. That's beautiful, he whispered. That's devastating, Seraphine corrected. They knew they would fade. They knew their time was limited. And still, they chose to love each other. Isn't that better than being alone? She looked at him then, really looked at him, and her bloodlight patterns were pulsing so fast they were almost strobing. You truly believe that? That brief connection is worth the inevitable loss. I have to believe that. Otherwise, what's the point of anything? The point, Seraphine said slowly, is survival. Continuation, not sentiment. That sounds like something someone tells themselves when they're afraid of being hurt. Her eyes widened. For a moment, Finn thought he'd gone too far, that he'd just insulted an empress and was about to become a cautionary tale. But then she laughed, that layered harmonic sound that seemed to resonate in his chest. You're either very brave or very foolish, Fin Mercia. Can't I be both? Cassian, Seraphine said without looking away from Finn. What do you think? The attendant stepped forward slightly. I think the human makes interesting points, my empress. Though he has no concept of the weight of immortality. No, Seraphine agreed. But he understands something I'd forgotten. The value of temporary things. She reached out and Finn's breath caught as her fingers cool but not cold touched the datapad. Show me more of your research. I want to understand what you find beautiful in dead voices. They worked through the night cycle. Or what would have been night if Finn had bothered sleeping. Seraphine pulled up file after file of his research signals from extinct civilizations, partial transmissions, fragments of languages that no longer had speakers, and she translated them, every single one. This is from the Karathi Union, she said. Parsing a signal Finn had labeled Unknown Source 47, they were merchants. Very practical people. This translates to warehouse inventory. 3,000 units of grain, 1,200 units of textile, 800 units of medical supplies. Not particularly romantic. Finn laughed. Not everything is poetry. More's the pity. She moved to the next file. This one, however, this is interesting. It's from the Singing Cliffs of Maridatha. They communicated through resonance, not words. This pattern, she hummed, and the sound had those impossible harmonics, matching the frequency on the screen. means joy in creation. You can reproduce their language. Our vocal structure is adaptable. She hummed again, a different pattern. This means sorrow in ending. What does this mean? Finn hummed a simple tone, barely musical. Seraphine's bloodlight flared bright crimson. Her attendance shifted. That, Cassian said carefully, is a very personal question in Meredithon resonance. Finn felt his face heat. What did I just say? You asked, Seraphine said, and there was definitely amusement in her voice now, if I would share blood with you. It's a marriage proposal, essentially. God, I'm sorry. I didn't mean the pronunciation was terrible anyway. You'd need at least 3 more vocal cords to properly propose. That's not as reassuring as you think it is. She smiled. Actually smiled, full and genuine, and it transformed her face from beautiful to absolutely devastating. Try this instead. She hummed a short, simple pattern. Finn attempted to copy it. Failed, tried again. Better, Seraphine said. That means I wish to learn more. What if I... He adjusted the pitch slightly. Her bloodlight pulsed. That means I wish to learn more about you specifically. The inflection matters. And if I do this, another small change. She paused. That means I find you fascinating. Their eyes met. Held. Good thing I pronounced it correctly then, Finn said softly. The moment stretched. One of the attendants coughed. Cassian was suddenly very interested in the ceiling panels. Seraphine cleared her throat. We should continue with the translations. Right? Yes, translations. Very professional. But when she leaned over to examine the next file, she stood closer than necessary. And when he pointed out a pattern in the data, his hand brushed hers. And she didn't pull away. They worked until station dawn, surrounded by the voices of the dead, learning each other's languages, and somewhere between parsing ancient poetry and sharing. Terrible station coffee that Seraphine declared aggressively offensive to all senses. Finn realized he was falling for an immortal vampire empress, which was probably the worst idea he'd ever had. But as Seraphine laughed at his explanation of why human coffee was universally terrible, her bloodlight patterns dancing bright and fast, Finn couldn't bring himself to care.